go to our next speaker. Dilip Sundaram is President of Corporate Affairs at the Mahindra Group Americas. Preceding that, he was President of Mahindra in Korea and was also VP and CFO at SsangYong Motors, a subsidiary of Mahindra. So he's going to talk a little bit about their work in agriculture.
It's working. Hi, it's good to see you. I think I have it. Yeah. So, do I have to click it? No, it's working. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay.
The green one is.
The green is
the big one.
The big one. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, I'm delighted to be here. The presentation that you're going to see today is been put together on the fly. Literally, it was between flights that sitting in aircraft using GoGo Flight. I put it all together and sent it off to Marcus. So you're not going to have those videos and things like that. The other thing I want to mention is Mahindra. We are the largest farm tractor company in the world. So some of you have heard of our company, some of you haven't. We started in the early 60s manufacturing farm tractors. We are the largest farm tractor company by a number of units. But at the end of the day, we are a traditional farm tractor company. We manufacture, we have plants. So it's not about all labs and so we come to these kind of conferences and we learn from those conferences. And then I have the opportunity to share with you some of our learnings, what we are facing when we look at our customers, what do they want? I mean, that's really how I want to kind of talk about where we are coming from. So with that in mind, I thought I'd also share with you that, what is happening today in the agricultural world from our perspective. It's being driven by two things. One is the demographics and the other is really the environment. And when we talk about environment, it is about soil, it's about water scarcity. So when I'm talking about demographics, this is probably some we talk about income growth and poverty reduction. So what this leads to, and this is happening in India, this is happening in a lot of the developing countries, is as we kind of do this poverty reduction and the income is growing, there's more disposable income. One is, excuse me, one is their diet is expanding. So they are going to consume more calories, they're going to consume more food. But the other impact that it's also going to have is their kind of food that they're going to consume is going to be different. So for example, in India, what we found was, traditionally in the 50s and the 60s, even 70s or so, they were consuming millet. Millet was the largest crop that was grown in India. Today it is no longer, millet is not being consumed as much, it's more rice and wheat. So it has gone to a different kind of a grain that people are consuming. In the developing world, people are now gearing towards more vegetable-based protein, more healthy diets. So there's a health consciousness here. The other thing we are also noticing is there's the farmer's age. So in the developed world, the farmer's age is actually so the statistics that I got was, in the US, the farmer's age over 65 outnumber those who are younger than 45. So effectively, as they retire, you're going to have less and less farmers in producing. The flip side, in India, if you look at it from 1950 to 2017, the food production has more than doubled, but the labor involved in just sheer numbers has more than tripled. So effectively, that has means that the farm income per laborer has gone down. And so I think we are going to have these two different aspects. One in the US, where it is going to lead to more industrialized scale farming because of lack of labor. And whereas in India, we need to figure out, I mean, at least the government has to figure out from a policy perspective as to how that trend is going to change. What do we need to do to the farmer to kind of take them from being in farming and moving them out so that we have per labor, we have more productivity. The other aspect is environment. So water usage, I mean, I'm sure that, you know, the other speakers who have talked about water usage, water scarcity. I mean, this is definitely an issue that is happening everywhere. And so obviously we're going to be talking a little bit more about micro irrigation, what we are doing as far as micro irrigation is concerned. So that is definitely an issue. The other is chemicals and the soil health. So obviously you're going to need a lot more sophisticated way of addressing that. More likely to happen out here than in developing countries. But even in developing countries, when we look at it, there is a certain demand for automation and robotics. One of the products that we are testing and has been very, very successful is potato seeding and potato harvesting. Now, this was probably something that is kind of like ancient in a developed world, but it is something that is that has a lot of value to an Indian farmer. And again, this has to do with productivity. Drones. One of the problems that we have had in India is there's a lot of regulations, rules and regulations regarding drones. That's a problem that we are facing. So from a Mahindra perspective, we looked at it. We looked at it quite seriously in how to introduce drones. We have worked with a number of other startups in India, but we had that problem. So obviously in the very near future, drones is not going to be very applicable in India. Robotics, again, in the case of robotics, it goes back to the automated tractors. Yes, we do see a future out there. We think that there is a tremendous opportunity. We are working with Virginia Tech right now, and we're working with a number of universities, again, both in India as well as here in the US, basically to see how we can build in this robotics into our products. So particularly on the implement side. So that is something that we're looking at. As far as digital applications are concerned, I mean, this is definitely where startups were going to play a huge role. Companies like Mahindra, we would not be able to deploy the resources that are necessary for the digital applications. And there are a number of digital applications. For example, I mean, yield assessment, land records. You know, for soil. I was on the West Coast yesterday, and I was talking to a company, a startup actually, who are working on this, and they are like, you know, they do the image processing, and I think I got that somewhere here. So through the imaging, they are trying to put together a lot of the information in terms of soil, in terms of the yield, in terms of kind of the crops that are grown, and they put it together. Now, obviously, it is a subscription-based service, and what we are doing is we're working with them, or we're planning on working with them to get that subscription-based services. Now, for us, that is very important, and because as you would see later, and I know that I was not supposed to kind of like just give you a corporate spiel, but you're going to get some of it. So in that some of it, you're going to see a little bit of what we are doing in terms of that data. What do we use that data for? Micro irrigation. I think this is really the name of the game, particularly in countries like India, where the water table is reducing fast. Um, and there is enough water table in India to last 2 seasons, 2 years. So effectively what that means is if I don't have rainfall for 2 years in India, okay, we're going to be in a serious drought. So, and that is something I think everyone is recognizing in India, and that's why micro irrigation is really going to be critical as we go forward in agri in India. So, alternative energy, again, this is something that is happening more here in the US than in India, but even in India it is kind of a thing. So we are using electric. So obviously electric means availability of electricity to charge the batteries, to run the tractors. You know, in India, in a lot of places, you don't have that ability. You don't have electricity. They just claim that there was 100% electrification of all the villages just about this year or last year. So effectively, but it's still not prevalent, particularly in the villages. So we still have that problem out there. But here we are in the U.S. We are already in the process of kind of introducing electric tractors. Big data analytics, I think where we this kind of goes back to the digital applications. This goes to the imaging that we are seeing. Effectively, again, big data, it's important. Now, one of the things, and I'm going to talk about it along with the yield assessment. So in India, traditionally, what has been happening is they have a system called Girdwari. Okay, I don't know what it means, but it's probably a Hindi or a Sanskrit word. But what it does is, I mean, they have the system, and this has been a very, very ancient system that's been going on, where every village has a system of going out there, measuring the yield, writing it on paper, passing it on to the next level, and then it gets consolidated, gets passed on to the next level. It's done twice a year. And by the time it goes all the way back to the state capital, by the time it goes all the way to the federal capital, I mean, they are already to the next couple of rounds later, and so effectively they don't have a good way of measuring the yield, and it is just an estimate, and what that leads to is a serious problem with demand and supply. In 2004, the standing government in the country fell because the onion prices were too high. Today, the big problem is the onion prices are too low. Okay. And it has to do with not anticipating the yield. Because if you anticipated the yield in 2004, if you anticipated the yield correctly for onions, what you would have done is you would have imported. And today, if you had anticipated it correctly, you would have planned for export. So that way, so today what is effectively happening is, because the onion prices are so low that the government has to meet the minimum price, so effectively it is increasing the, it's a strain on the budget. So to that extent, if we kind of digitized and if we brought in this newer technologies of yield assessment, effectively what would happen is it would kind of dramatically change the way we would have advance warning. So this is more from a policy perspective, we would have advance warning. So the government is very interested in doing this, so they're working hard on this. Image processing, kind of, we already talked about it. But let's talk about something that, we don't think of it as high-tech, but it is something that is essential to a farmer. It is farm services. Okay, they are looking for financing. They are looking for insurance. They are looking for a number of other support services that is going on behind all the the interesting technologies that we're talking about. And I think we will get into that very quickly. So again, when we look at it from a Mahindra agri-business standpoint, we look at the inputs, we look at micro irrigation. I think that is something that we are very interested in working with startups. We are engaging with Israeli companies because they are supposed to be the experts on micro irrigation. We want to bring that out there. Now, my role in the U.S. is after being in Korea for 7 years, and in Korea again we have a collaboration with a major Korean company to manufacture farm tractors. But one of the things was we had a chief of our financing business come to Korea, and we were talking to one of the major insurance companies in Korea, and the comment that was made was like, India has 600,000 villages, and in response, our CEO of our finance business basically turned around and said, and we are in half of them. So we are present in about 300,000 villages. So effectively what that means is we will be able to provide that to the 300,000 villages in micro irrigation. Again, seeds. There is a desperate need for seeds, and that to high quality seeds to be available to the farmers, crop care. So that is one thing. And on the output side, someone needs to manage the logistics. Someone needs to kind of handle the distribution. Traditionally in India, they have always had that issue of not being able to manage logistics and manage distribution in an efficient manner, and effectively having too much of losses out there. And also being exploited, the farmers being exploited. So we have developed some brands, and we have the other thing that I also want to talk about is our My Agri Guru. We have developed apps internally inside the company. We have developed, and of course that's really where we rely on other startups to provide the data, provide the analysis to feed that app, so that, and this is an app that the farmers, it's given to the farmers free of cost. And we provide a lot of the information. We provide the pricings in the different market for their crops. We provide weather information, and we provide soil information. So there's a lot of information that we provide. And again, so this is kind of like, we are trying to build all the services under one roof. Again, this is where we also work with a lot of startups. We have and in a number of cases, we work with the startup to build our own startup. So some of the businesses that we got into was because driven by this demand. So this is again, like we have stores. This is how we help with the logistics, bringing the food from the farm, bringing the products from the farm to practically the table. And again, this is the number of the words are written in Hindi, but this is really something that covers a lot of the information that a farmer requires. Now, one of the highest penetration of cell phones and of smartphones is in India. So we find this to be a very useful way of reaching to the farmer, getting them the information, and so this is what it is. The biggest challenge today, I mean, we can talk about productivity, we can talk about technology. The biggest challenge is, from a Mahindra perspective, what we are looking at is productivity is not the issue. Water conservation, everything isn't, I mean, they're all important, but they're not as important as farmers' income. So whether it's in the US or in India, the farmer's income is eroding. And if you don't have farmers' prosperity, everything that we are doing out here is meaningless, because they would not be able to afford what we are all trying to put together. So I think that is something that, from a Mahindra perspective, we are taking a holistic view on farmer prosperity. And I think in the US, I mean, when you think of an average family-owned farm, they are spending, they got so much of assets tied in, and then the products that they sell, and then when you really realize that the difference between all the revenue and all their expenses is only like $30, $40, $50,000. If we were going through our financial reviews on a quarterly basis, we would have declared bankruptcy and we would have moved on. So I think that is what is happening in the US, and that is exactly what is happening in India. I think the farmer income is important. So the question is, how do we bring it all together to support farmer prosperity? I think in a way, this is saying the same thing. So this is, again, we offer advisory services under one roof in those 300,000 villages. Thank you.